Connect with Sarah Crosby? Text your thoughts now to 403-974-8255. Connect with Sarah Crosby on QR Calgary.
So my husband actually timed how long his shower was on site. He got her done in 1:40. I don't know how. It's maybe the most impressive thing I've ever seen. 1:40 shower. Now here's the situation. When we have so much conservation happening and we're doing 3-minute showers and we're not washing our dishes and we're only doing full loads of laundry and no outdoor watering at all, it raises the question of, does every drop actually matter? And here's why I ask. Last week, we had on an author named David Barrett, who had a paper done for the University of Calgary's School of Public Policy titled Water Availability and Growth in the Calgary Metropolitan Region. And he said one of the things that's complicated about building more housing in the city is whether or not we can have ample water. And part of the problem is how much water we're actually losing in our underground pipes.
What we need to keep in mind that as we build, more and more infrastructure, we need to make sure that we are, fiscally able to maintain that infrastructure so we don't have the catastrophic failures. But also, you see an associated loss with every kilometer of pipe that's underground, right? So in the city of Calgary, that's pegged at about 25 up to 25% of treated water is just lost from the pipes before it even gets to a house. It's just lost somewhere in the system. In other areas in the surrounding areas in the municipal region, that's up to 50%. 50% of the treated water could be getting lost just from the pipes. So what we really need to think about from a housing perspective is, do we want to lay more and more pipe, down underneath the streets at a huge maintenance cost, or can we try to focus on growth? It probably answers both, but, can we try to focus our growth a little bit more inwards where we've got some existing infrastructure? We might be able to minimize that loss.
So I said, whoa. What do you mean we're losing 25% of the water before it gets to our homes? And he said, well, you'll have to talk to a University of Calgary expert on that. Okay. Joining us to discuss where is this water going and is that too much water to be losing, welcome back to the show, Kerry Black, Assistant Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Calgary's Schulich School of Engineering, also the Canada Research Chair in Integrated Knowledge Engineering and Sustainable Communities. Thank you for coming back to the show, Kerry.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, when I was told on the show that 25% of the water disappears from the pipes before it gets to our houses, my mind was kind of blown. So I need to know what's happening here.
Okay, so that's a general approximate number, but we can see levels as low as, 5 to 10%. And in some older systems, we can see upwards of 50%. So it really does depend where you live, how old the pipes are, how well they were put together, et cetera. So it's also really hard to figure out that amount, as you can imagine. You basically have to know how much you have when it leaves the water treatment plant versus how much gets to every single place that it's meant to go. So as you can imagine, that's a math problem that not a lot of people want to tackle because you'd have to do a lot of testing out there. Essentially what happens is pipes are leaky. I think anybody who's ever had a hose in their backyard will know that it doesn't take much for things to start to leak. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's had an irrigation system will know that it can be finicky. There can be lots of areas for water to leak, and water is pretty powerful. It's pretty strong, and it can also, find its way. It's always going to find the path of least resistance, and so unfortunately that means we do lose quite a bit of water along our distribution lines.
So in I'm doing air quotes, in normal times, is it just accepted in your engineering world that you're going to lose 7 to 50% depending on where the pipes are, what community you live in, and that's just the loss you need?
No, certainly, there's been lots of calls over the last couple of decades to invest in infrastructure so that we can reduce the amount of water that's leaking through the systems, but it's not accepted, I would say, or expected. For well-managed systems, so systems that have a lot of, operation and maintenance dollars put back in to make sure that they're running well and little fix and checks are done regularly, a 5 to 10% is probably in the realm of acceptable. 50% is not, and that's an indication of a system that's been under-maintained, underfunded, and needs to either be repaired or completely replaced. So that level of loss, unfortunately, is not acceptable. But if you don't have enough resources to fix your infrastructure systems, sometimes that's what you have to live with.
This was a week where every person in the city has become a pipe expert. And so there are many thoughts on how we should be fixing this water main and who should be fixing this water main, and can't we coat it with this or slick it with that or reinforce it with this. And I understand all of that frustration because people just want to have more than a 3-minute shower. But at the same time, when someone says some communities are losing 25 to 50% of their water before it gets to their home, that seems to me like still an outrageous amount when we're pleading with people to conserve every single drop. So I found that number to be astronomical in my own brain.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's good to remember that, across Canada, that the estimates on that average vary. So I've certainly seen anywhere in the 10 to 15% range. But remember that an average is an indication of both high numbers and low numbers. So there are certainly some cities that have higher values. Here in Calgary, though, I would never expect that value to be up at 25% by any means. But it is a question to consider in terms of how efficient our systems are for infrastructure. That being said, there's not really any new age ways of delivering water to your tap without having a pipeline running underground. And that's the way we've been doing it for quite a long time. So we generally are pretty good at it. But like I said, it requires regular maintenance. And regular maintenance means it requires regular dollars. And you only have so many dollars available unless people are willing to spend a bit more on their water, right?
I do wonder now, after June 2024, if we would all be willing to say, I would be willing to spend a little bit more on our water, because a few days seems like a little minor inconvenience. 3 to 5 weeks seems like people are thinking either I'm going to dig in deep and tackle this with passion, or you've got to be kidding me and I'm out. So when every drop matters, I think it's important to look where every drop is going.
Absolutely. We have to have a really good idea of, we spend a lot of money and dollars on, cleaning water and getting it to drinking water quality. That any loss along the pipeline is not going to be something that's, a good thing. It's a waste of money. That being said, there's infrastructure costs a lot of money. And that's the part that I think the average, citizen doesn't really understand, is how much it costs to actually have your infrastructure working well. And if you don't maintain it regularly, you've got a problem. And the city of Calgary does. And so that's the other reality, is that infrastructure sometimes fails. And when it does, we have to be prepared. But certainly hoping that people, maybe they won't have 3-minute military showers, but hoping they'll reduce their shower time just to conserve this resource moving forward.
Well, thank you again for joining us. That's Assistant Professor Kerry Black from the Department of Civil Engineering at the University of Calgary's Schulich School of Engineering. Thank you for being here to explain it to us. I know this must be like the busiest time ever for water experts, so appreciate you joining us again.
No, always happy to share. It's great to have people interested in this topic.
Awesome. Well, we will probably chat again in a couple days, so I'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks. Have a good one.
You too.